Fort Wellington was built during the War of 1812 to defend the St. Lawrence River shipping route between Montreal and Kingston from possible attack by the United States. It was called into service once again in 1838, when invasion from the United States was imminent. The fort continued to be used for military purposes, with occasional periods of abandonment, until it was opened to the public as a historic site in 1923. Today, the fort is refurbished to represent its appearance during the 1840s, when the Royal Canadian Rifle Regiment was stationed here. Designed to slow down or stop an infantry attack, the first defensive work that you approach at Fort Wellington is an 11-foot-high palisade, a series of wooden posts driven into the earth which surrounds the perimeter of the fortification. There are two parts to the earthen defenses of the fort, the ramparts and the dry ditch, known collectively as the earthworks. The present ramparts were originally built during the War of 1812 and later refurbished at the outbreak of the rebellions of Upper Canada. These earthen walls gave the fort a commanding view and allowed for control of the surrounding ground and water. Along the top outer edge of the ramparts is a series of horizontal posts known as the fraise. Like the palisade, the fraise was designed to make an infantry attack over the top of the ramparts as difficult as possible. Consisting of large double doors opening in opposite directions and mounted in a stone archway, the gate is the only entrance to the fort, and is therefore the fort's most vulnerable point. As an attack was most likely to come from the direction of the river, the gate was deliberately situated in the north wall. A white sentry box is located just inside the gates, opposite to where the guardhouse once stood. Here, soldiers on guard duty would have strictly controlled access in and out of the fort. Fort Wellington artillery faced the St. Lawrence River to control the shipping lane, and would have been used to fire at enemy ships or to destroy buildings in the American town of Ogdensburg, New York. The mortars, mounted south of the blockhouse, fired a 10-inch diameter exploding shell weighing 92 pounds. A reproduction 6-pounder field gun, a mobile piece, stands near the blockhouse. The guardhouse originally stood within the walls of the fort. Inside, soldiers assigned to guard duty would rest between their shift rotations. Originally intended to house 2 officers, the officers' quarters is now furnished with period artifacts representing the mid-1840s, when it was occupied by only one junior officer of the Royal Canadian Rifle Regiment. This wooden-framed structure is divided into 3 sections: bedroom, kitchen, and dining room. Officers had a higher standard of living than the regular soldiers. Each officer was assigned a servant from the ranks to clean his quarters, care for his uniforms, and prepare his meals. The officers' quarters were also designed for defense. Notice the rifle ports that also served as windows. The rooms are not connected with interior doors. This prevents an enemy from entering at one end of the building and sweeping through each room, one right after the other. The cookhouse, used to prepare the soldiers' meals, was located between the officers' quarters and the latrine. While the standard fare may have been meat and potatoes, at Fort Wellington we know that the soldiers ate quite well. The latrine is divided into 3 separate compartments: the officers' privy, the women and small children's privy, and the enlisted men's privy. The latrine illustrates the strict division between officers and enlisted men. In 1990, an archaeological excavation of the latrine uncovered several thousand artifacts belonging to the inhabitants of the fort. The caponière is a room projecting into the south portion of the dry ditch, built of stone thick enough to stop small-caliber cannonballs. The ceiling is made of heavy timbers covered with earth to make it bomb-proof. Its roof is covered in tin. Joined to the fort by a passage through the ramparts, the Caponière offered defenders a secure position from which to deliver flanking fire through the rifle ports at an infantry attack in the south river-facing portion of the dry ditch. This massive stone blockhouse was built in 1839 to replace the original wooden barrack. Should an enemy succeed in overcoming the defences of the fort, the British garrison could retreat into the blockhouse and make a stand. Its walls are almost 3 feet thick. Rifle ports cut into the walls allowed defenders to fire on enemy soldiers in all 4 directions. To protect the blockhouse against mortar shells, the roof structure was filled with layers of cedar logs and dirt. Within the blockhouse, a well-supplied garrison should have been able to hold out against an attack until the arrival of reinforcements from Kingston. The room to the left of the entrance was the armory. Over 1,000 muskets were stored there for issue to the local militia in the event of an invasion or rebellion. The next room along the west side of the building is the powder magazine. It was designed to hold up to 400 barrels of black powder, an amount which, if detonated, would have destroyed the blockhouse. Precautions were taken to prevent such an event. Just opposite the powder magazine is the barrack stores, where various pieces of equipment, tools, and uniforms were stored. At the foot of the stairs is the commissariat stores. Emergency rations were kept here, as well as a supply of fresh local produce. A well near the bottom of the stairs provided fresh water. The room to the right of the entrance was originally used as a guard room before the guardhouse was built, and later served to house artillery and ordnance stores. The barracks housed the men of the garrison and their wives and children. In contrast to the officers, they often lived in crowded conditions. Currently, the barrack on the second floor portrays the married quarters and is divided with curtains. Rather than having a Spartan appearance, it is believed that the barracks stored an assortment of personal belongings and clothing. Plans show that the third floor would have served as the barrack for the bachelors and those men who did not have their family with them. From the third floor, a number of low doorways provided access to the overhanging gallery, which enabled defenders to fire directly down on the enemy through trap doors. This floor currently houses exhibits that trace the history of the fort. We hope you have enjoyed your virtual visit to Fort Wellington.